In Acts chapter 11, we have a great example of the early church not only proclaiming Christ with the words, but also through their actions. In Acts chapter 11, God calls a prophet, Agabus, to go to the people in Antioch and to tell them the message that there's going to be a famine, not just in the land that they are living in, but over the entire land and over the entire world. There's going to be a famine. The early Christians, they hear this message of Agabus, and they just don't sit still. They don't just sit on their hands and wait. They don't turn and look to the Roman government for help because they know what the Romans are doing. Instead, the early church, they take action to help those who are going to suffer because of the famine. They each give according to their ability. So each gives at a different scale, but each gives to help with those who are going to suffer because of the famine. We read of this great action that the church takes, and in the very next section of Acts, we read about the response of the Roman government. Because of what the Christians were saying and doing, because of Jesus Christ, the message that they had, they were a threat to the government. And so James, the brother of John who writes the Gospel of John, he is executed. Peter, one of the early followers of Christ, he is put into prison. This is the response that the government gives to the early church. Now, you and I, we live in the United States. We're not being threatened. We're not being imprisoned for the message of Jesus Christ. But somehow along the line in history, the church has forgotten about what it is to do. The church is to both proclaim the law and the gospel. They are to proclaim it through their words, but also through their actions. Through much of history, when there was some kind of natural disaster, when there was some kind of terrible event took place in a village, in a town, people would look to the church for help. They would look for the church for guidance. Somehow, the church has become complacent. Most churches are okay with the government coming in and doing most of the helping of people. You and I see how that is going. It hasn't turned out so well because it gets caught up in the politics. It gets caught up in the bureaucracy of our government. It's time for the church to get back to doing what the early church was doing, and that is to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. Most churches are okay with the government doing most of the work, but we're seeing glimpses. We're seeing churches stepping up and taking on more responsibility. We see that here at our own church here at St. Matthew with the Bread for Life for the Cool Food Pantry. This simple way of gathering bread and giving it to people in need. But it means so much, and it gives us an opportunity to not only proclaim Christ with our words, but also with our actions. And so we ask for God to help us to continue to be his hands and his feet wherever he calls us as his people. If you'd like to know more about some of the actions that have been taken by the church to help those who are suffering, you can visit us on our website at www.stmats.net. Or if you're in the northern Chicago area this weekend, you can join us for worship.